We lead teams by standing behind them. Agile Practice Guide. As a PM, you will be supporting your team members by coaching, mentoring, and training. Sometimes this is necessary, for example, if when you're looking into the root causes of an individual's performance issue, you uncover a skill gap or a competency gap. Moreover, this ongoing support for growth and development means that you will be advocating for their growth and their career development. This helps to spin the web of value because as your team members grow and they grow their competencies and skills and experience and knowledge, they gain competence, they gain confidence, and they contribute even more value back into your project and into your organization. The Agile Practice Guide also talks about growing your team members. And I want to add here that you want to grow your team members even if it means that you might lose them from your team or your organization. Craig Handley, author of Hired to Quit, is literally hiring people and saying, you're hired and we are training you to quit. Wait, what? But he says, my dream is to build a world-class call center. It's not theirs. And guess what? His turnover rate decreased 20%. Why? Because his employees feel supported in their dreams and are happier and inspired to stay. But you might be growing someone to grow into different roles in your organization as well, and that's the career trajectory for them. So you're going to be exposing your whole entire team to a mix of training, mentoring, coaching, and knowledge sharing opportunities, like sending them to a conference or a meetup group or a network group. Reflection means serious thought or consideration. By incorporating reflective supervision into your superpowers, you could better support the professional development of your team members by truly understanding what each team member brings to the table, things that could help or things that can impede your project's progress. I recommend showing your team Steve Covey's Level 5 leadership model from his Good to Great book. Let them know that you're here to help them and grow them up. It's a pyramid that he has. So at the bottom, he has individual contributor, that's at the base, and at level 5 is an executive leader. So perhaps you'll be supporting an individual contributor as they grow into a rock star team member, or maybe you're supporting a contributing team member as they take on more and more management and leadership responsibilities. Yet again, I'm doing my staying alive dance by accident, I assure you. You'll also be supporting your team members as they gain new competencies and skills. For example, you could support someone who has a depth of expertise in their field, expand the breadth of expertise. So I lost my pen, but see this T-shaped skills. Here's my depth of expertise, but now I'm getting a little experience in UX, etc., etc. But the funny thing is that nowadays it's not just T-shaped skills. You might also see pie-shaped, and even comb-shaped. Other words you might hear is like cross-trained, cross-functional. So you're there to help all of that. I'm going to switch gears here for a second though. Imagine that you're exhausted, you haven't slept, you're stressed out, and you even have crazy allergies and you're sneezing your head off. Someone's yelling at you to do something and they're being really mean and cranky. Well, how well are you going to learn something new when you feel like that? Not well at all, right? Remember in the past videos, I showed you the biological spacesuit and how the suit has these different feather modes over here. We learn and we grow when we're in the green feather mode. If we're in that yellow feather mode, the spacesuit is mobilizing for fight or flight, and it's helpfully cutting off the amount of oxygen that we get to our smarty pants brain, like literally diminishing blood flow there. You could call it also flipping your lid, meaning the smarty pants brain kind of goes offline. And so you don't want that for your team, right? You want a team member that's in that green state, get them out of that stress, chronic stress, mobilization for fight or flight, yellow feather mode, get them into that green. I might have even made this up myself because I'm corny, restore and explore versus fight or flight. You're also there to nurture a growth mindset in your team. And this doesn't have to be a big deal. For example, People with a fixed mindset could enjoy a quick win like answering a basic question during a training, and this gives them a zap of dopamine that helps them feel great about learning. PMI mentions the growth mindset in the Agile Practice Guide, and it's also covered in the authorized PMP exam prep course as well. Carol Dweck has researched growth versus fixed mindsets for decades. A growth mindset entails believing that capabilities, skills, and talents can be developed over time by being persistent and seeing failures as opportunities to learn and grow. This contrasts with a fixed mindset, which entails believing that abilities and talents are set in stone. Failure is seen as something to avoid, so an overarching goal for someone with a fixed mindset is to just look smart. Carol Dweck's research has shown that the view you adopt for yourself will have a profound effect on your life. People with a growth mindset have an advantage when it comes to how they face and cope with challenges. They're also more likely to continue working hard despite setbacks. Qualities of the growth mindset. Belief that nothing is carved in stone. Our basic qualities can and should be cultivated. Intelligence and skills are malleable. Focused on and passionate about learning. Failure is an opportunity to learn too. Not focused on proving myself, as improvement can occur over time. Belief in overcoming, Belief in overcoming weaknesses via persistence. Forming and seeking relationships that will encourage growth and new challenges. And confront challenges, stepping out of the comfort zone. I like to call that space outside the comfort zone the adventure zone. We grow in the adventure zone, the zone of new, the zone of often the uncertain, the complex, the volatile, and the risky, but also the zone of play and challenge and community and engagement, flow, and adventure, fun, thriving, exploration, experimentation, enthusiastic, engaged aliveness. There's a circuit in our brain called the seeking system. It's actually a self-activating system when you want it to be. That means I could turn on my seeking system, it's somewhere down there, by thinking about a time where I was killing it, showing up like I was born to do this, and contributing and feeling all those purposeful feels. The seeking system can also be activated based on context. But this little circuit is what we want turned on in the brains of our teams. If we have someone on our team who's learned helplessness, their brain basically learned to ignore the surges from this system. So try to get your team's brains turned back on by getting them to green, helping them to activate their seeking circuits, and they'll learn, develop themselves, create, contribute, thrive, flourish, be connected and engage with the team and collaborate, all the things we love. Part of being a PM, whether you regard yourself as a servant leader or not, is to coach your team members. Sometimes this relates to what I like to call the person's inner game. A big piece of this inner game is mindset, like we were just discussing, and there are coaching tools you could use to help coach someone who's working on developing a growth mindset. And I can have a growth mindset in one area, but not in another area. So this is a fantastic thing. There's also resources you could use to help coach someone above the line, where there's a line, and above the line is where I think, things happen because of me. I really believe that. And below the line behaviors are where it's more of a powerless, things happen to me. Have you ever heard of locus control? It's like that, locus of control. Now it's beyond the scope of this series that I'm doing right now to dig into this stuff, though I do love this stuff and I have other materials on it if you want to check those out. And later in this video series, we will actually cover the Oscar coaching model. That's the one documented in your PMBOK 7. Also on PMI's Learning Library, they cover the GROW model. So I might talk about that one too. So another good habit, make sure you are really recognizing the team member and team's achievements. Really show that authentic appreciation and how proud you are of them. It's also very important these days to understand trauma and what it takes to be a trauma-informed, resilience-oriented organization. Why? Because sometimes it's not just a fixed mindset versus growth mindset thing, or not just a above the line, below the line thing. More and more these days, people are showing up with the physiology. So yes, their whole entire body and brain in the physiology of trauma, or burnout physiology, or chronic stress physiology, and it affects everything. That means the biological spacesuit has adapted to this. The world is a dangerous place. It adapted towards danger versus safety and connection. And yes, that means it like shuts off more and more and more of the blood flow to key parts of the brain. So we are having all this stuff go on thanks to our biological spacesuit behind the scenes before we're even consciously aware of it on our radar. So think about trauma informed, trauma aware, trauma responsive. Yesterday, or in the last video, I showed the well-being model, and that was no accident, right? More and more, we really have to appreciate the humanity and human spirit at the core of what we are. And people could forget that connection. Trauma, burnout, chronic stress, that all, here's my biological spacesuit, it's all obscured by the heaviness and gravity of the physiology that we take on when we're in that state. So though we have the human spirit is always perfect and shining and glowing, when we're in the trauma physiology, do we really pick up on that, right? That's why people go, it's sad, but when people who try to commit suicide, if the attempt fails, they say, I literally saw no other option. And it's because they get so narrowed in, the whole physiology, their whole entire body, including their brain, narrowed in. Like, we are in a project environment, we want to be in that green state because that's where we could problem solve, create, connect. Negativity and neutrality actually hold us back. So the only state of seeking and broaden and build is to get to that green feather mode. Then we have people going into chronic stress, unfortunately, and that's chronic yellow. I call that the ever stressed mode. And now there's physical and cognitive decline. It's hurting them even on the cellular level, even on the subcellular level. So it's body wide. It's a whole physiology. It's a whole biological spacesuit kind of thing. And then when we get more to red, that's where it's more numb and hopeless. So here's the biological spacesuit, and if we're showing up in green, we'll see like, oh, look at that. You know, we're connected to our spirit, or at least we really can connect to our sense of spirit. But when we are showing up in those other physiologies, it really is, we really forget. So help someone by giving them even that little spark, right? And then they could feel again, really connect to the core of what we are and that beautiful human spirit and amplified love, right? It's really, I know this training took a little turn, but why are we here? Why do we have our job, right? Why, right? Remembering what we really are is just the game changer, and it's where the world needs to go. So very heart-centric, human-centric leadership, that's really where it's at. So hope you're on board with me. Please reach out if you want any other resources. And also, I could mention here, because it's relevant, I do offer a free training for facilitators of the SQ workshop, where SQ is spiritual quotient. So later in the PMP exam prep ECO bullet by bullet videos, we'll go through EI, which is emotional intelligence, and sometimes you hear that as EQ, emotional quotient. For all the PMP test prep 2, PMI really stresses the improving of our TQ, our technological or technology, I guess it's technological quotient, TQ, right? So all of those EQ, IQ, TQ, we want to build it up, build it up, build it up, build it up, build it up. With SQ, I say it's the opposite. I say your spirit is already 100% perfect, and it's more about unobscuring and peeling away all that stuff. And that stuff is meant to be helpful, right? The suit is going to think about survival first and safety first. But then once we're in that green feather mode, now we could strive. So everything about your mind and body, everything about the biological spacesuit is either helpful or helpful. And I do purposely talk about a biological spacesuit because you're going to have more compassion for yourself. You're going to have more compassion for others. We keep talking about the disc models, right? If you're like, oh, this person's biological spacesuit is wired like a D or an I or an S or a C, or if someone is in yellow feather mode, it's silly on purpose because how angry are you going to be? So instead of us getting all ruffled feathers and at each other, now there's like a little bit of distance, and you could say, oh, that's what's going on for them. And you could truly be that really calm leader, right? Do you ever see those people and they just have that presence and they're always like, your chaos going on, and they're composed and calm and kind? That's really the goal. See you in the next one.